in child protective services, and they won't give them back to their loving families because they're making money.
This is a legal system that you're going into. And if you don't know the rules, you will be chewed up and spit out.
If I could say anything to a mother who just got their children detained, you're in a crisis. Yeah. Life feels like it's over. The most important thing is regaining custody of your children.
The child welfare system at its core is designed to protect children who need protection, okay? And that's key, is who need protection.
So social workers, out of fear, will remove more children rather than only remove those children that truly need to be removed.
It's okay. It's okay.
This isn't someone stole your car. Someone broke into your house. This is someone took your child, your flesh and blood.
It doesn't say on this order that it was not proven. It says untrue. True. I immediately knew that, okay, well, this ain't over.
Were there signs there? Were there no signs? Did I miss them? Did I catch them? At this point, I honestly don't know.
Families only get a finite amount of time to reunify.
I came into this field to help families, not destroy them.
The difference between the criminal system and the child welfare system is substantial. You have more rights as a criminal than you do as a parent.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Georgette, and I work for the law office of Vincent Davis, and I'm also the co-host for Relatives Fight CPS. And my co-host today, Michael, Cardina, and Cassandra.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, Michael and Cassandra.
Hi, Cassandra.
Hi.
Why don't you guys talk about, Michael, why don't you share with everyone to bring awareness of what you kind of want to bring up a topic about social workers' ethics that they don't follow?
Yeah, sure. I just stumbled upon this. Thank you, Miss G. I just stumbled upon this, looking some things up and, just about what social workers, like there has to be some type of code for them to follow. And I found this NASW thing. And I'll just read a couple of, their ethics codes and kind of what they're supposed to stand for. And I'll just read. So this is the number one. It's pretty informative. It's kind of funny though. But standard one. So these are the standards they're supposed to go by. Social workers, specifically in child welfare services. And standard one, ethics and values. Social workers in child welfare shall demonstrate a commitment to the values and ethics of the social work profession and shall use the NASW's Code of Ethics as a guide to ethical decision making while understanding the unique aspects of child welfare practice. And the interpretation is a social worker in child welfare shall demonstrate the core values of service, social justice, the dignity and worth of the person, the importance of relationships, integrity, and competence. In addition, social workers shall adhere to the professional ethical responsibilities delineated in the NASW Code of Ethics. The Code of Ethics establishes the ethical responsibilities of all social workers with respect to themselves, clients, colleagues, employees, and employing organizations. The social work profession and society acceptance of these responsibilities guides and fosters competent social work practice in child welfare. As an integral component of the child welfare system, social workers have the responsibility to know and comply with local, state, and federal legislations, regulations, and policies. In some instances, legal and regulatory guidelines and administrative practices may conflict with the best interests of a child and or family. In the event that the conflicts arise among competing expectations, child welfare social workers are directed to the NASW Code of Ethics as a tool in their decision making. However, they should also seek guidance from supervisors and or other relevant professionals.
Mm-hmm.
I think what really got me, this is just one out of like 15 of them,
Mm-hmm.
was a social worker in child welfare shall demonstrate the core values of service. And it was social justice, the dignity and worth of a person, the importance of relationships, integrity, and
Mm-hmm.
competence. And dude, like, I have to say, my social worker, my experience, and for most people, probably is like the exact opposite of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like um, my social worker showed me none of those things basically. So it was just funny to read that, but that's
Mm-hmm.
what they're supposed to practice and project and stuff like that. It's just funny that that's totally not how they do it. So yeah, laws and regulations, they kind of make up their own things as they go, which is kind of funny. I just
Yeah.
thought it was
They
funny.
No, they make up rules. They set rules in place, like I
Mhm.
explained to you guys several times, to violate your constitutional rights.
Absolutely.
Cassandra, why don't you go ahead and share with us what you wanted to say earlier?
Well, I was like doing some research and I found that something that just went into working is the Family First Prevention Act that they signed in 2019. And the states actually took 2 years to put it in motion because they gave them delays so that way they could figure out the funding and everything for each state. And California took one of the longest states to agree to start doing it.
Of course.
But
I'm not surprised.
the Family First Act is it says it's a major step in federal child welfare reform and has the potential to transform the way states provide services to children who are abused and neglected. And there's 2 policies: reforming children welfare finances to federal dollars to be used for prevention, which means before being put in the foster care child welfare system. And then after the fact, this is where after the fact of if they do get put in there, funding for services and restrictions on group care went into effect. Yeah, they go into effect in 2019. So like they want to put the kids into like these group homes called like therapeutic group homes. It's SRT or SR whatever. I can't remember what it's called, but my daughter's in one right now. And they sent me a paper to come to court to approve for her to be in this group home. Well, this is how California found a loophole, because they're not going to fund group homes anymore for a long period of time. They're going to have a short period of time for group homes to be funded, and then after that, the kids don't get money from the government anymore for those group homes. But the group homes that are exempt are these therapeutic group homes that have on 24/7 nurses and psychiatrists and stuff like that for kids with trauma. The trauma that they put on these kids. And my daughter is being put in one right now because of the trauma that apparently I put her through. But we all know who put her through it. Can't hear you. Can't hear you, Georgetta. Can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
Thank you. So the trauma, you did not create that trauma. For those who haven't watched Michael and Cassandra with me before, these 2 are victims of CPS. They are actually the non-offending parent, both of them. They, Cassandra didn't even know that her children were taken from the father. She had no idea. And Michael, he wasn't even the offending parent. It was the biological mother that was. But yet they punished Michael, making it look like Michael knew all along, and he didn't know what she was doing. He had no idea.
I
So
suspected, and
yeah.
They
So the
put me in the
system
same.
is broken. The system is broken. So I'm going to read this, okay? So Child Protective Services, also known as CPS, is a protected empire built on kidnapping children and destroying families, okay? Now, Bill Clinton in 1997 Act offered cash bonuses to the state for every child they adopt out in foster care. And in order to receive the adoption incentive bonuses, CPS treats kids like merchandise that they sell. And they must bring plenty of innocent children so that the buyers can choose. The buyers, that is, the adoptive foster parents. Remember, there's two different types of home. There's an adoptive foster family and there's a foster family. Okay? Workers work to keep the federal dollars flowing. Each bonus is multiplied by percentage that the state has managed to exceed baseline adoption numbers. Therefore, the state and local community, which is CPS, work hard to reach their goal to increase the numbers of adoption. This program is by the very top and is ran by the Health and Human Resources. This is why victims of CPS don't get the help from their legislator. And also our tax dollars is keeping this gigantic system afloat. And 6 out of 10 children dies in foster homes, and the number keeps increasing. CPS became a protected empire built on taking children and separating families. It's called illegal kidnapping. So poor parents and middle-class people are the ones that suffer the most. So they are targeted to lose their kids because they don't have the money to hire an attorney. A CPS attorney, in fact. CPS workers commit fraud and withhold evidence in court, and no checks and balances is made, and judges allow them to run the show all the time. The separation of families and the snatching of children is growing as CPS business grows because the state and local government are accustomed to having these taxpayers' dollars to balance their overgrowing budget. So the people that benefit from all this is the following: state employees, social workers, children therapists, court-appointed attorneys, also known as court pretenders, guardian ad litem, CPS investigators, judges, foster parents, adoptive foster parents, children psychologists, all of them looking at the children in the state custody to provide job security. So they are connected with the state for the children that's in the state custody, because there's so many, because that allows them job security. That's very important for you guys to understand.
Those are some good points, Georgette. Like, and when if somebody was just to tune into this show and hear that, I think somebody would be like, "Oh, that's not true." I might have been that way in the beginning. I'd be like, "It can't be that way. That's not true." But it is true, and I'm living it, and I've been living it for a year and a half now.
Yeah.
And it's horrible.
It is horrible.
It's sick, and man, I don't. It's like, where do you go? Like when you have a problem, I mean, you can go, complaint here, do a complaint here and there, but for the most part, it's really hard to. It doesn't really have an effect, no matter how.
Nope.
In most cases, it doesn't. It's just. It's a very. I mean, it's not a position that you'd want to find. Anybody who's a loving parent would want to find themselves in. It's just it's very, you're just very powerless, and at times you feel hopeless. So it's good. People need to listen to this because it is the truth. It is the truth, and I'm sure Cassandra is going through it too.
Yep.
And Miss G sees it on a daily basis. So I mean, open up your ears and get your eyes going and listen to what we're saying. Because it's all real shit.
And
I actually have a link to this article that I found. It's exactly about what you're talking about, how they have like a short period of time to reunify, like because of this act that in 1997 Bill Clinton did with his wife, of course. She was a supporter of it, of course.
Of course.
Yeah. So I have an article and I have a link, and she put it up last show, but I'm going to send it again, and so that way you guys see it.
Yeah, I think Grace is gonna post it right now. I just wanted to
Mhm.
just bring a few things up, okay? I know this is relatives fight CPS, and I want to talk a little bit about relatives. And I have seen that for everything that I discuss with people all day long as I work, with Mr. Davis, I I realize that families are also sending the wrong message to the social workers. Example, a sister called me, uh, one of our clients. She was crying because she hated her sister. So they were always fighting. So what she did to get back at her sister, she reported her to the Department of Child Services. She told them she does drugs. She told them she does cocaine, this and this and that. She's neglecting the child, blah 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 blah. She wanted to just traumatize her because she hated her, and they're blood sisters. Okay, they're not stepsisters; they're actual blood sisters. And she regretted it. She said she had a dream and she felt God spoke to her and what she did is wrong, and she wanted to come out with the truth, and now she regrets it because her nephew is in foster home. So what I want to tell you guys is this, whoever's watching the show, stop. Just stop it. Because oftentimes you think you're hurting a grown woman or a grown man, a father or a mother. You're actually hurting the children far worse. Far worse. Because the children are traumatized from being stolen from their mother or their father. It doesn't matter if you don't like the daughter-in-law or the sister or the brother, or it doesn't matter. You have to think of the children, because once you open Pandora's box, there is no way in hell you can close it. It's a done deal. Pandora's box is open. You guys know this. So you can't go to a social worker and say, I take it back. You can't do that. And wives or girlfriends or whatever, stop retaliating against your boyfriend because he found a new relationship. You guys made a child together. That's not the child's fault. You chose him and he chose you. If things don't work out, don't retaliate against each other. Don't.
That's
Because
a really good point. That's a really good point. I've heard somebody say, not to cut you off, Miss D, but she's a grandmother, and then her daughter is not taking care of the child to her liking, and they're mad at each other. And she says, "Well, I'm going to call CPS." I'm like, "Don't do that." That's
Yep.
like, but that's what people do. They retaliate. They think that's just like that's a bad way of thinking. It's just
And don't use kids as weapons, you guys. Like, for real. Like, people who use kids as weapons, it's not the kids' fault. Don't retaliate with the kids. Like, there's no reason for it.
But honestly, people who do this, you have to be dark inside to do this. Just to report anyone just because you don't like them to CPS. CPS is an organization, as we all know, that makes money from removing children. So when you involve them, you're actually asking the devil to walk in your home and then tell the devil, I changed my mind, don't come in. I mean, go out, get out. But the devil is not going to come to your home unless you invite him in. The same thing goes with the system. They want that funding. They want that money. They want to keep it going. They want to keep it going. But then they complain they have a lot of caseloads, but they have a lot of caseloads because you lie, because you fabricate information. If you really go to the homes that really need help, you're really doing your job. But if you go to homes who are good parents and steal children from them, then you're just as demonic as can be. I have two great parents sitting in front of me right now, Michael and Cassandra. I have two other great parents who are actually watching the shows, who are involved in following the news about CPS. These parents are great parents, but the social workers tend to leave the abused children at the abusive home so they can make more money, get it, by recycling the child back. So all of that is involving money. All they care about is money. That's all it is. However, relatives who are fighting to get placement of their children, for example, a grandmother, there's so many great grandmothers, amazing grandmothers. They have no record against them. They have no past. They're good people, but yet they're fighting to get their grandkids placed with them. That's pretty big. That your own grandmother is fighting to get placement of the children, and the county is not doing it. But there is a new law, as Nancy Skinner law, that Governor Newsom signed. I mean, what's his name again? Oh my Jesus. Newsom. Everybody knows who he is. He signed the law stating that any past of relative placement, for example, anyone with a past that's like decades old, say for example they had a theft, like petty theft, or they did something wrong when they were, teenagers, whatever, CPS cannot hold that against them. They no longer can hold the past against them. That law is called Newsom's Nancy Skinner SB 354. California Governor Gavin Newsom signed this law, which took effect January 1st of 2022. So it says California Governor Newsom today signed Senator Nancy Skinner's SB 354, which removes obstacles in the foster care system that have prevented children from being placed with a relative caregiver who may have a past conviction. Current law can prevent someone from caring for children, even when their past conviction is decades old and they pose no safety risk to the child. So this new law should allow the family members to have placement of their grandkids, right? It's right here.
That's the whole reason why I didn't have anybody like to take my kids, because everybody in my life has had past convictions and they wouldn't give them my kids. Like my dad, my mom said no. My mom told them no.
I wonder why your mom said that.
Because of her husband. They told him that they don't want him because of her husband.
When
he
was
hates
this?
me in
2018. Yeah, but that has nothing to do with the children, for the love of God.
Yeah, but he doesn't like me, so he said, no, we're not taking them. So that's why they didn't go with my mom, because she had no prior convictions. But the father's mother and father also decades old convictions. And they said no to them too. They couldn't even come and visit them.
Oh my God. Which, that's why I call them demons, because they hold the past against you. They hold your past against you, because who you are today is not your past. People make mistakes. That doesn't mean that's who they are right now. And that's what gets me, because when you try to better yourself, when you try to build yourself, when you try to accomplish, good things in your life, and then CPS comes and steals your children and then brings your your 16-year past, or 20-year past, or 30-year past. It's crazy. There's a grandparent. He's such a loving grandfather. He had a past against him. I think I mentioned this before, from 2016. I mean, sorry, when he was 16 years old. The guy is like 64. So he was 16 when this happened. I think he stole something very stupid, like maybe an eraser. I don't know what it was, but he stole something that's less than $5. So back then, they just charged him with petty theft. but they held that against him. You're not going to believe this. The man has his own business and Amazon. I can't say the name of the business, but he's successful and he's a great human being. So why are you holding his past against him? It doesn't make any sense. I also have grandparents who the social worker removed, it was 3 kids. They removed 2 kids from them and they only kept 1 child with them. Why would you keep 1 child with them and remove 2 kids? And say that they failed to protect. How did they fail to protect? And you're not going to believe this. The only reason they say they failed to protect is because the mother, who is the daughter of the grandmother, who is the mother of the children, called the mom and said, "Mom, let me just hear my kid's voice." That's it. That's all she wanted to hear. And the social worker told her because she allowed the mother to hear the kids speak. That's the only reason. So they removed 2 children, 2 grandkids from her who are younger than the one that they left with her. So they left her the 13-year-old and they removed the 8 and 6-year-old from her. And they got the children adopted. I kid you not. They got the children adopted because the mother wanted to hear her children's voice.
That's horrible. And that just goes to show that it's like any little thing they'll use it, even something as genuine as that, and like, natural as what a parent would want to do, right? Like,
Yeah.
they'll hold that against you. And you know what's funny? That I mean, there's this a particular guy in my case that I talked to about 6 months ago about adoption, and that's like his specialty is like, oh well, I forget what they call them, but it's like if the reunification doesn't work, then he's the next guy to set up the adoption and stuff.
Right.
So I had my hearing on the 8th of February, and I've never seen him before, but I remembered his voice and his name because I talked to him several times. He's a total, lack of a better term, just kind of a dummy, And then, but there was 2 parents waiting out there as well, and they were going through an adoption thing. I didn't look like it was by choice, and they were, having a hard time dealing with it. But he was there, like yeah, I got, like, kind of like with an attitude, like I got him, like he's doing a good thing, like it was just really weird and really just kind of nasty, it just didn't feel right. But that's the thing, they get off on doing these things that should be a last resort, not like, trying to get it done. You should be trying to help the parents and stuff, right? In a perfect world.
Yep. You would think.
It's just terrible.
Yep. And also I want to read what Margaret wrote. She said, how does dependency court handle a parent who makes false accusation against the other parent? And does parental alienation, how does this affect custody? Well, Margaret, honestly, in dependency courts, they favor the abuser. I can't emphasize that enough. They favor the abuser 100% of the time. So, even if the abuser, of course, alienating the children from the other parent, oftentimes the abusers like this are narcissistic, sociopathic individuals. The system sides with them because they are charmers and they know how to charm them. And like I mentioned on my shows before, like Jesus said, a house divided against itself is not going to stand. So demons are not going to go against itself. So we have the state and we have the county. We have the guardian ad litem. We have state attorneys. We have county attorneys. We have the children attorneys. All these people connected together, they have to protect this empire. It's the humongous empire. You guys don't understand. The empire is bigger than the cartels. I kid you not. That empire is bigger than the cartels.
Just as dangerous too, even more
Just
so,
as dangerous.
and
Correct.
even more. They're because they can do it and kind of look like they're doing something legally. When it's I don't know. At least you know what the cartel. You know what they're doing. They're doing the drugs, whatever. Guns, this, that, and the
Mhm.
other. But here it's like the kids, and they're doing it in our courtrooms and through the justice system, which is you know uh, anything but just. So it's just
Yeah.
that's what I think they're even more dangerous than cartels in a lot of ways. I think they
In a
are.
lot of ways, they are, but also oftentimes they date people in the cartels. I can't mention too much about that, but sometimes it happens. Um, but there's a lot of times what people don't understand is that they will side with the abusers because they think just like the abuser. So they abuse the system and they abuse children and they abuse parents. So people like that, they side with the other. So without a juvenile dependency attorney that understands um, the strategy that is required after he or she reviews your case, of course, you're not going to be able to fight this on your own. Oftentimes people think because I'm a good parent, I can fight. I'm going to win. No, you
Nope,
can't.
doesn't work that.
He's a man that doubted me when I told him that. He doubted me
I
over a year
did. I
ago.
thought
Yeah.
Miss G, she was pretty forward. I was like, no, could it really be like that? No way. Because it pretty much the same thing. I was like, I really didn't do anything.
Right.
I was the one that's concerned, and um, yeah, I don't know what. I really didn't. I just really didn't think it could go this far, and here we are. Probably, about a year. I probably met Miss G about a year and a half ago, maybe a little less, and I had that a year ago today. I had a different mentality than I do now. After speaking to Miss G, and then everything Miss G mentioned to me in our first couple conversations, 3 months, 6 months down the road, all was true. Everything she said was pretty spot on. So, yeah, don't be naive, everybody. Hopefully, if there's one thing you can take from me, is don't be naive and make sure you get what you need, what you want out of your court appointed attorney, but even better, hire a professional, hire a professional attorney. That's it's going to save you a lot of grief in the long run, and do it as fast as you can.
Yep. Yeah. Don't wait, guys. If you're dealing with the investigative part, don't wait. Don't wait. Don't wait to see what's going to happen in court because it's not going to, the outcome is bad. So when you wait to see what's going to happen in court, you're literally setting yourself up to fail by just waiting. When you open your mouth to the social worker, you're definitely setting yourself up to fail. You have to exercise your Fifth Amendment, your Fourth Amendment, your Sixth Amendment, because the Sixth Amendment it's giving you the right to get an attorney. You understand? So you are staying silent. So basically, this is how it goes. If you invoke your Fifth Amendment rights to remain silent, then your Fourth Amendment rights will be free from unreasonable searches and seizures, and your Sixth Amendment right to have an attorney. Then you can stop an overzealous caseworker in their tracks. If you choose to waive these, then be prepared to have everything you say to them be held against you. And it will be held against you. If you said the sky is blue, they're going to write in the report that you said the sky is purple. I kid you not. Okay?
Happened to me, really did.
Right.
Or happened my ex-wife. I just read the report, and they showed up at her house. We live separately and stuff, and that's what they did. They asked her some questions. She answered the door. She agreed to let them in, and they found what they wanted to find or needed to find, and bam, just like that, kids are gone, and I don't even find out about it till the next day. And the social worker tells me, I want to see my son. And she's like, well, we can't do that. I can set up a visit. The next, well, I think it was a Friday. It happened on a Thursday, so it was Friday, like afternoon, like 3 or 4, like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And I'm like, well, I see him, and she's like, well, no, like I begged and pleaded with this woman. She said that I couldn't see him, and so I had to wait for the weekend. But basically, maybe I didn't have to wait, but that's just me being misinformed and emotional over the thing, and that's the problem, and maybe believing her a little bit, like maybe that is the way it is. Maybe I can't see him until the next week or whatever. Like I can't, but really that's another big thing too, is we got to stay informed. That's the beautiful thing about this show, is people need to take these little lessons and these little experiences that I've had to endure, and people like Cassandra as well, and thousands, maybe even millions of people have gone through. So yeah, these are things that actually happen. You don't think they're going to happen, but they do happen, and they happen on a daily basis around the country, and then I guess they're going worldwide now, CPS. So it's like it's a scary thing. It's a very scary thing.
It actually is going worldwide. I call it the new world order. Yeah, it's the new world order, and that's they're holding our children, which is our kids, is our heart and soul. You steal one's child, you literally stole her life or his life away from him. Because children, at the end of the day, they want to be with their parents. Like Michael's situation, he should be with his father. But the thing about social workers is they do everything maliciously.
Oh man, they love oh man, I can't, just like I've said this before on the show, Miss G, is just when you think they won't go any lower, or they won't, whether it's with another lie or whatever, or in my case, delaying a service and then saying that I was uncooperative, not wanting to do it, whatever it is. There's so many different things that they do, and they get away with, is the crazy thing. But what was I gonna say? Yeah, the cap of it all right now is, so there's a case plan, and this, that, and the other. I was in compliance with the case plan at 1 year. My ex-wife was not, yet they still gave the child back to the mother, and I have a room for him, which I'm in right now. This is like my little office type thing, a room for the child. I saw my son, and he's sleeping on a couch, in an apartment. And I have a pretty sweet home. One roommate who has a child himself, who's 10, another single dad. My roommate's cool. He's had the same job 20 years. Trampoline out here, backyard, nice dog. Instead, the social worker, I think out of, personal reasons, has the, ref, recommended the child go back with the mother. It's just the offending parent to begin with. So it's like, it's a rough ride, and yeah, I can't stress enough, educating yourself on the situation, and getting a skilled attorney.
Yep,
Pure and
you
simple.
need a skilled attorney, but you guys have to understand too, when you fight the state, it's you versus the state. Okay, so for example, if your case is in California, it's you versus the state of California, and then the county of San Bernardino, or the county of Los Angeles, or the county of Lancaster, whatever. So people think that handling state cases is the same way of handling family law cases. Family law cases are completely different, completely different than juvenile. So a family law attorney cannot handle a juvenile dependency case. However, what's going on lately for the last year and a half is that family law attorneys tell people who are desperate, we'll take $2,500 retainer, we'll take $1,950 retainer, we'll take $3,500 retainer. Just imagine how many people they say that to a day. They collect over $80,000 or $100,000 a day. And then they come back a week later and say, we need $10,000 from you. So people need to understand Family law is lower courts. Juvenile is higher courts. So, for example, if you have custody through family law, and say your ex is being an ass, and he reports you to CPS, then they remove the case from family to juvenile, and then juvenile supersedes family. So your custody in family law doesn't exist once the state takes over.
That's the truth. And it's a different process too. There's different, you can't just admit evidence the same way like you can. You can't just walk up to the clerk and be like, well, I have this,
Correct.
About the social worker doing this or that. I mean, the juvenile dependency is very different. It's
Very
very different than your family law. Family law is you want to stay there. If you have a custody order with your parent or the other parent, and you try to do your best to co-parent and stay away from the juvenile dependency. It's just
But oftentimes, Michael, people cannot stay away from juvenile because oftentimes the parents are so innocent. Like for example, a aunt went to pick up her nephew from school today, right? No joke. And then the nephew is 7 years old, and then he had a bruise on his arm. So the aunt said to the teacher, what happened? Oh, he hurt himself on the playground. So the teacher was upset that the aunt asked her a question. So she reported the child to Child Protective Services. So she was retaliating against the aunt because the aunt is like, why didn't you call me? Why didn't you call the mom? She was concerned about her nephew, right? So guess what? Child Protective Services got involved. Even though it happened on the playground. Now the mother is going to get charged with abuse and neglect and fail to protect. Or the father is going to be the abuser and the mother is the one that's going to be failed to protect. Either way, they're going to frame both parents. Either way. And that's how it works.
They're
And
going to
people
squeeze this
in America do not understand the law. Not everybody understands this because other families in America don't understand that the United Kingdom right now is suffering a great deal with child kidnapping, CPS, that is. The UK is suffering. They're stealing kids every single minute. And it's out of control as well. Canada, Hawaii has a system that's just as bad. And kids are suffering there too. They have another CPS in somewhere in Africa, I forgot where, but it's in Africa. Their CPS is going worldwide. It used to be just the United States. Now it's worldwide. And they're going to pay a lot of money everywhere.
It's going around, and it's for the wrong reasons. That's what I like.
Correct.
Like, it's not to protect children because I think me, Cassandra, and Miss G knows, of course, that I don't know, Miss G. This is a good question here. Have you ever come across like a good situation? Usually, people are calling you when they're in a bad spot, but are there stories that you've heard about like good social workers like actually helping the parent, like the case plans usually state, like they're supposed to advocate and help the parent get in these services and all that stuff, but then it's like the opposite,
No.
That's
no.
horrible.
No. Social workers would tell you to do the case plan, blah, 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 blah. Then you sign it. And then basically you're giving them the right over your children. That's why Mr. Davis on his shows, he always tells people, do not sign anything. Do not sign anything. Do not do a drug test. You have the right to refuse a drug test. Because what they do, they send you to their own facility. And all of a sudden, I told you guys I had a person before, he went to that facility. Exactly 20 minutes or 25 minutes later, went to another clinic, did a drug test immediately, And the drug test he did contradicted the other drug test that they said he had drugs in the system. That man also paid money to do a hair follicle exam test. And the hair follicle test is it brings you back from 3 to 6 months if you've done any drugs, right? Clean. So why and how is it that CPS drug facilities somehow, all of a sudden, the parent has drugs when the parents didn't do drugs? Then they make it a drug case. That's their tactics. So that way they can terminate the parents' parental rights. So they can get the children adopted.
That's a beautiful point. That's a beautiful point, Miss G. And I just recently went through that. It's a very similar thing.
Yep.
That's their go-to. That's what they use the most.
And then Kaylee said, what do you do when there are children living in dangerous homes who need intervention? Who do you call when CPS is so corrupt? That's a good question. You know what? I don't know what, like, exactly in children living in dangerous homes. Are you talking about like drugs? They lock the kids in the room. They tie the kids to the bed. They don't feed the children. Can I be a little bit more specific? Because oftentimes people see that the living is dangerous, but what is dangerous to people exactly? I've known an aunt who thinks a child walking barefoot is dangerous. And she called CPS against the mom. Because the child walks barefoot on the grass, inside the house, in the backyard. He was one of those children that left to take his shoes off. Children have different personalities, but that was dangerous to her. And she made it sound like it's life and death. So, a little bit more specific, Kaylee.
Yeah,
James
CPS.
said, I have passed drug screen. Okay, that's good. Not all of them. Not everybody passes drug screen, James. And oftentimes the parents that don't pass it is because the child is a year old, for example, or a newborn child, and the family wants to adopt a newborn child or a year-old child, whatever. Because remember, the adoptive foster families, they choose what type of child they're looking for. So if that parent has a newborn, for example, or a year-old, they want to do something so they can get that parent to lose his or her parental rights. All you need is one parent to lose their parental rights. So they will send them to their own drug facility. And oftentimes they will tell them to go to the drug facility 10 to 15 minutes before they close. And they live 30 or an hour away from the drug facility, or sometimes 2 hours. They don't, if they go and it's late and they close, then it's automatic positive. So they use tactics to sabotage a parent so they can get that child adopted, because that's where all the money is. That's where they get the money from. They get more funding with adoption. Todd said, wow, I did drug tests for well over a year and a half, thinking that would be a guarantee. It wasn't. So Todd knows what we're talking about. That's another victim of CPS.
That's another one I hear.
Follow the money. It's all about trusts and bonds. Yep, absolutely.
And like I was reading the laws and stuff about what's technically child abuse and neglect and stuff. And I came across one that said that a drug screening alone is not basis to take a child.
That's true.
It said that. It
Yeah.
needs backup evidence.
Yeah.
And it's not. So, like, when they go and take those children from their mothers just because they got a dirty drug test, they're not allowed to do that. It
They're
says it
not.
right there, but
Yeah.
they do.
They do. They
It
do.
says right there. It's a 1100 and 165.5, I think, is the penal code or whatever that I was reading. Like, it says it right there, plain as day, that it's not basis for taking a child from its mother without evidence.
What's the code again?
I think it's 165.5. I think it is. I think
That's a good one, because I think a lot of times it's just, we're misinformed, or we simply don't know, and then we have this, a social worker backed by a police officer, and then we kind of freak out. I think that happens in a lot of situations. And then, like Miss G said earlier in the show, we're targets, dude. If you're not wealthy, and you're, especially, a lot of kids maybe with not a lot of income, using county resources, food stamps or whatever. Oh, dude, you're a prime target, for the social workers, and that for them, the more kids you have, boom, that's like that social worker just getting all happy about having to adopt this family's kids out, like. That's just how they think, though, So they have a little what is it, like a pool of people that they choose, that it's all premeditated. I want to say what
It
they
is.
do.
It's premeditated. It is. And the thing about it is, like, what's his name? The guy that did 2.5 Men.
Charlie Sheen, or the
Charlie Sheen. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
He had a humongous drug abuse problem. Cocaine. Let's be exact. Cocaine. He had children. He didn't lose his children. Angelina Jolie. I think she's a nutcase. I've never liked her. She's dating her brother. She's literally dating her own brother. And when I looked at that, I was disgusted. It was so disgusting to me. Okay. She put the children through hell. Why? Because Brad Pitt left her.
Yeah, that was a weird one, and then Brad
Yeah.
Pitt, seems to be like pretty down to earth, for a star and stuff, and she's like the complete opposite, wants to be on the spotlight, and then
yeah. So she's psycho to me. She's psycho, and I'm being honest. So basically, to me, social workers, they didn't take the kids because they have an ugly divorce, or they're bickering back and forth, or because they had a domestic violence. She accused them of domestic violence. So, again, a normal parent like you, me, and Michael, and the rest, right? They will take our children. And if there's a parent that raised concern, then they would take the children from that parent that raised concern and leave the children with the abuser. All the time. It happens every single day.
It's a win-win for them. It's a win-win. So, like, if the slim chance that the abusing parent actually turns it around, they look good. But more times than not, they're gonna the abusing parent's gonna mess up again. So then they get the kids back or whatever, and then me, like, dude, they're surprised I'm still around, because all the Miss G, again, everything she has said about how the tactics that the foster parent have used against me to, like, just get me to snap, dude. The stuff at the visitation center, the stuff with the drug testing, all that has happened to me. But it's been over a period of like a year and a half. And then things will be okay for a minute. And then boom, then they'll hit me with something. And it's just like it's pretty impressive, but more and so disgusting how they do it. But it's not what I'm trying to say, it's not an accident. These things happen. These things happening, and when the timing that they'll, like, if my social worker would submit a letter full of things that are just not true to the courts about my participation in services and things like that, and a bunch of hearsay, like a month before, the 6-month hearing, a month before the year hearing, when just, a couple weeks before that, she's all, Michael, you're doing really great. You're doing everything you need to be doing. And then she'll send one of those letters, to just totally fucking
Opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For no other purpose other than to mess with me, to get me to do something that they can use against me. I mean, that's just, it's obvious now at this point. It's crazy. I couldn't
The
make this
social
up.
workers, they lie. They're 100% pathological liars, all of them. All of them. There is absolutely not one social worker that actually says the truth. Not one. Not one. And if you question them, or if you want to exercise your constitutional rights, they retaliate against you harder.
They get pissed off. They really do. They take it
Pissed off.
personal.
What do you mean they take it personal? That's your constitutional rights. They don't go steal children from social workers. There's a case that involved a social worker last year. And the father, his wife works as a social worker for the Department of Child Services in Los Angeles, California. That lady, the mother, beat her child with a belt. The father reported her to the department. You're not going to believe what happened. They put the father in jail. And the child told them that it was not their dad, it was their mom. But they protected their own.
That's true. They're very tight-knit, They're all kind of weird and just, they're odd. Their behaviors, their movements, the way they say, their logic or lack thereof. I mean, but that is one thing I can say about them that they have. They really do stick together, and they have each other's backs, and it's pretty scary. It's a scary feeling, being out there just kind of with not that many people with me here in this area against these social workers, man. It's a weird thing.
The department is scary, Michael. The department is scary. Our government is scary. It really is. It really, really, really is. Because they take more taxes from poor people. Right? They take more taxes from poor people. Yet the rich keeps getting richer. So there's really no balance. If they pay you an extra $2 on the minimum wage, the rent increases $200.
It's an illusion. Yeah, I've noticed that. I'm like, I have more money now, but it's
gas
like I
is
don't. But then there's gas.
Now. Mm-hmm. There you go. It's all about protecting their own. They're protecting their own family. They're protecting their own pocket. They're protecting their own bank. But the people, the little people who pay them to steal their children, our tax dollars that they get from us pays their salary so they can come back and steal our children and then make the parent pay child support.
Yeah, that could be coming for me too. I mean, I don't think that. I mean, I just don't know. I don't get it. But there's nothing to get. What we're saying right now is the truth, and I'm like living proof on the male side, and Cassandra's living proof on the female side, and just we're both parents that are dealing with the same thing, just in probably a little bit different ways, But all in all, it's meant to break you down and beat you down.
Yeah.
And
no, honestly, Michael, you and Cassandra have extremely, am I wrong here, Cassandra? Your case, you and Cassandra are completely the same.
Did you feel my
I'm not joking. The only thing that makes it dynamic is that it's a guy that the man that did, the father that did it to her, and yours is the biological mom that did it to you. Yeah. And look at James. He said CPS accused me of having a long history of drug use and abuse, and the worker went on the stand, testified under oath. So basically, she went on the stand, testified under oath that's the truth, right? He said he never had a charge of drugs in his life. So he's never done drugs. Here, he said, I've never had a dirty drug screen in his life. But all of a sudden, look at how cute his baby is. See how cute the baby is? Yeah.
That's the same thing that happened to me. I
Yep.
have no allegations of drug use or anything,
Yep.
but yet
All
I'm
they
being
wanted
accused of
was
it.
that baby. Yeah. All they wanted was that baby. And the social workers will go to the adoptive family, foster family, and say, look, I found you the cutest baby ever. I want you to look at it. He's going to be in the home next week. That's what they say.
And like you said, they go off of allegations.
Correct.
It's like, since when does court go off of allegations?
Yeah, innocent till proven guilty, right? So it's just like, yeah, and
There
hearsay.
is no innocent until proven guilty.
Oh,
Where did you get this one from?
especially in the juvenile dependency. Especially in the juvenile dependency.
It's a whole nother ball game. It really
It's
is.
a whole nother ball game. Yeah. In the juvenile, you're guilty until proven more guilty.
Mm-hmm.
Which is true, Michael. You always laugh when I say that.
Well,
you're guilty until proven more guilty.
It's true, you know, and then and in my case too, it's funny because they you know, I have a couple charges, you know, misdemeanors and stuff like that. They like tacked on things that they created charges and put them on my, like, in the jurisdictional report. And I told my attorney about that, the court appointed one, and she's like, well, that's in a different county, so don't worry about that. And I'm like, don't worry about that. First of all, that's my name, and they're putting these things in here that are not true, you know, like criminal charges and stuff. And then I told the social worker about that, and she used it again in the dispositional writings, and then again in the 6-month hearing to like get me to do anger management. Like, you know, I have the text messages. I'm like, Megan, I'm really starting to feel like you're, you know, not on my side here. And then those charges, why did you use those again? And she just uses them again. She doesn't give. They just don't care.
No, they don't care. They just want the child. That's all they care about. The thing about it is, you know, in family court, I'm sure you guys heard or you witnessed when the judge, you know, the attorneys will say, will argue hearsay, Your Honor. It's a hearsay, Your Honor. Hearsay, Your Honor. Right? But somehow in juvenile dependency, hearsay is accepted by the social workers.
Oh, yeah.
The social worker can say something. And is, you know, instead of the judge saying that's hearsay, show me some proof, show me some evidence, right? It actually doesn't work that way. Their hearsay works in the juvenile system.
Mm-hmm.
So that tells me they want children so badly because they want to make more money, more money, more money. It is insane how much money a social worker can make a year. Part of that money is incentives. It's incentives. I kid you not. I looked at a copy of a record of a social worker's name and how much that social worker gets paid a year. And I saw that on Facebook, as a matter of fact. I couldn't believe it. I kid you not. I'm actually going to look for it right now.
You know, I went to the it's funny.
It's right here. Look, it's right here. I kid you not. It says it's California salaries. It's a social worker's name at Monterey County. Made $164,000 in total compensation. Of this total amount, $70,983 was received as a salary. 6,685 was received as overtime pay. 22,561 was received as benefits, and 58,700 came from others. Okay.
So the others
That's a
is
lot
that
of money.
bonuses
That's a lot of
and
money.
stuff. That's way a ton of money.
That's the real salary of a social worker. And that's why they can afford living luxury cars and et cetera, et cetera. So it makes me sad that when a social worker arrives to somebody's home to steal their children, and they already know what they're going to do to the child, and when the family refuses to open the door, which is their rights, because you don't have a warrant, you don't have a court order, and yet you get mad at the parent because they're exercising their rights, and then you retaliate against the parent and steal their child and say that the parent retaliated against you and all that, etc., etc. Same thing goes with monitors. People that monitor your visitation. I'm not talking about at the county building. I'm talking about after. You know, the judge orders that you get monitored visitation. Example. The monitor is going to side with the parent that pays the money, because the monitor doesn't want to lose the money that she gets paid every week. So he or she will side with the parent that pays her, right? Or him. And then they will make false allegation against the mom, for example, and side with the father. That's how screwed up everything is involving CPS and monitoring and all this bullshit. They treat good parents like criminals. And that's bullshit. And I'm going to say this over and over and over again. They are demonic assholes. Demonic assholes. I want to
It's
read
all
this.
real. It's all
Yeah,
real. That's real. That's real talk.
it is.
G.
It's
That
real.
is
This
straight
shit
up.
is real. James asked, where can I find an attorney in Virginia that will actually speak to me? James, there's not a whole lot of list of attorneys in Virginia that I know of at the moment. I do know an attorney in New York that I gave his name to several people. But in Virginia, it's very limited. Juvenile attorneys usually don't want to go against the state. You have to understand, the judges are attorneys in black robes. Remember that. All the judges you see, whether it's family court or juvenile, they're attorneys wearing black robes. Oftentimes, that attorney doesn't want to go against the state because he wants to be a judge. So what do they tell people? It's a conflict of interest. And then, of course, if you hire Mr. Davis to fly to Virginia, the retainer is going to be extremely high, because you're paying for this attorney to fly to Virginia to review your case, to file the paperwork for you, to represent you in court. That's a lot of money. And that's what CPS counts on. Parents who can't hire an attorney because they don't have money. The attorneys of Virginia and Oregon and all these mother F's places, what they do, it's like a deal with the devil, like I said. So if they don't go against the system and help people, then the county kind of gives them like under the table clients. So they make money elsewhere, different way. Other attorneys will take your information and give it to CPS. I kid you not. I had this lady called me yesterday, and she told me that she went to this attorney. The attorney asked her, she was writing down information, asked her what is her social security number, what is her address, what is her case number. That lady never paid a retainer. She never signed a contract. The attorneys are not supposed to ask that. Your focus should be on the case, so you can give her the right advice. So when she realized that she's getting this gut feeling in her stomach, she said, no, I want my information back. I don't want to do this. She said, no, I'll keep your information and I will forgive you for the consultation fee, which was like $250 or something. So she said, I will forgive you for that money, but I'm going to keep this information. But why? What are you going to do with it? Why would you want somebody's social security number? Why would you want somebody's address if that person hasn't paid you a retainer and that person hasn't signed the agreement? There's a lot involved here. And people don't understand that most of these places, they have people working for them under the table. And she even asked her, when was the last time you had sex? How many partners do you have? Do you have a boyfriend? What does your boyfriend do? Why would you want to know how many times she has sex?
For
right?
to use it to find out, basically
It's
they're trying
weird.
to find out as much information as they can, what the person's like, who they are, so they can,
Right.
create a plan to what they want to, to get what they want, like to make it as easier. That's like what the CPS workers do when they come in and they come to your door. If they don't come in that first day, they are talking to you and they're interviewing you and they're getting
Right.
like you said earlier in the show, anything they get, they're getting these little details and they're like, oh, like remember that now? Oh, he's not. What is it? She's not getting along with the husband, or he's not getting along with his wife. Okay, so they'll write like domestic violence, possible domestic, and they create their own little, log of the person for future,
Right.
whatever they want. In this case, taking kids or whatever.
Yeah. They steal. I don't even call it take. They steal the kids. Lorena asked, do you know an attorney that takes payments? Maybe when it comes to court cases, a lot of attorneys don't rely on payments because oftentimes an attorney is not going to stop what he or she doing to get the payment. There has to be a retainer upfront. If you exhaust that retainer, then you can discuss with your attorney whether or not you want to make payments on that on the rest of the case. But you have to understand, just to file in court is between $700 to $1,000. I have people who tried to do it on their own and they paid so much money in just filing fees. So attorneys are not going to come out of pocket because everybody's looking for payments. But attorneys are not credit card companies where they're going to check your record and your history and all that stuff. They don't do that. So what I recommend to everybody is do what everybody else has been telling me they've been doing. Get loans. People are said, Ms. G, I got a loan. The other lady said to me, I got involved with my aunt, my uncle, everybody I knew in college, everybody at school, class reunion, people she met, everybody donated to her. She had more than the retainer amount. GoFundMe, people are not using that as much because when you go do a GoFundMe account, other people think you're going to use it for drugs or you're going to use it for yourself. You're not going to use it on the case. So the ones that really know you, right? They're the ones who are going to help you. So do whatever you can. We have a client that sold his house, him and his wife. I kid you not. We have another client who stayed with his brother and his wife until he worked really hard, came up with the retainer really fast, and hired the attorney. But don't think to come to an attorney towards the end of your case or in the middle of your case and expect that attorney to say, I'm going to get your kids 100%. There is no such thing. The attorney has to review your case. The attorney has to come up with a strategy based on what they wrote in your report in order for him to understand more about your case. The attorney will question you. The attorney will subpoena the right people involved in the case, such as the social worker piece of shit who lied against you. That's how it works. All that costs money. So it can't go to a Rolls-Royce dealership and expect yourself to pay Nissan prices, period. You can't go to the house and expect for them to help you for free. You can't have a consultation with an attorney and get mad because that attorney charges for a consultation.
What about, excuse me, Ms. G, what about if there's a potential lawsuit against a social worker? Isn't there like something where a lawyer could possibly take the case if it's winnable? Contingency fee. There you go.
Right.
Is that?
There is two ways: contingency fee, or there's or hourly hybrid. So hourly hybrid meaning that you have to put a retainer because all the filing, all of that has to be paid for. And so the attorney start off with a retainer and then takes a percentage from that lawsuit when it settles, because the attorney is not going to continue to pay for the lawsuit until the lawsuit settles. It could take 8 months, 12 months. We don't know. So it depends. So people think just because they have a good case, they can win that case. You can't win that case by yourself.
And it's
Again,
impossible to know for sure if you're going to win a case or not. You may have a good case, but that doesn't mean you're going to win.
exactly.
And
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a very tricky
We have
system.
we have clients who hired Mr. Davis and he won the lawsuits for them. But it took forever.
Mm-hmm. And he's probably lost some too. Like maybe
Yeah,
even just any other lawyer. Any other
exactly.
good
But
attorney.
oftentimes people screw up their case themselves. So oftentimes people say I have a good lawsuit, I have a good lawsuit. So as the attorney gets involved in the case, then they find out that you didn't tell me this. You didn't tell me this. You didn't tell me this. So get everything together in order. Don't just assume that you have a good lawsuit, but yet you keep stuff from from your attorney and expect to win the case. If the attorney had all the facts from the get-go, while he or she is coming up with a strategy in their head how to win this lawsuit, but you kept this missing information right there that could have helped you win the case, or that information is the reason why you lost the lawsuit to begin with, because the attorney couldn't he didn't know, so he can't come up with strategy to reverse it. That's why in our contracts we always say be honest to your attorney, and anything you say to your attorney is confidential for the rest of your life. It's not just confidential until the case is over. It's confidential. That's why on our shows, Mr. Davis doesn't want us to mention clients' names. Get it? We can't mention the attorney that's handling the case's name, whatever. So that way nobody knows their business. So it is confidential. So anyone that asks you, again, I'm going to go reflect to that. Anyone that asks you for your social security and your address, an attorney that asks you for that before you sign the retainer, before anything, because that retainer should request the information from you already. That retainer should be done in person to sign it and review it, or via DocuSign. But when you go talk to an attorney for a consultation, I have never heard Mr. Davis ask one person, what's your social security number, while he's doing the consultation with her or him. It doesn't work that way. So we realize that this is a red flag, so don't go for it. Stop right there and then and end it and walk away. And that's that. James said, how high? James, it depends, honey. It depends on the case, the length of the case. Like I tell everybody, the things we need to know: what county the case is in, what state the case is in, how many kids are involved, when were the kids removed. You have to know at least the month and the year. What was the allegation against you? When is the next court hearing? What is the name of the hearing? What type of hearing is it? So all this we need to know in order for us to give you a retainer amount. And that's how it works. We don't just say everybody is $18,500. Everybody is $20,000. Everybody is $7,000. We don't do that. It depends, because every case is different. And the length of the case matters, and the type of hearing matters. Because if you're going through an adoption, they terminated your parental rights, and your kids are getting adopted next week, you better believe that retainer is not going to be $7,000.
That's what I was going to ask, Miss G. So like ballpark. I mean, would you say it's fair to say, like, expect it's always going to depend, but expect to at least pay like 10 grand, just for a retainer. It all depends and everything, but be prepared, because it's going to be at least 10 grand. I would say. Would you say that's a pretty good, I don't know, good number to throw out there?
What, 10 grand for what again, baby?
For a retainer. It obviously depends on what case. I mean, like you said, how far you are into the case and all that stuff. But would that be like a rough estimate, like to be prepared to at least pay somewhere in that ballpark?
It depends. Again, it depends. Some cases are 12,500. Investigation, for example, depends if it's locally, it's 79, between 79 to 9,700. It depends. Again, it can go up to 18,500. It can go up to 20,000. It can go up to 35,000. It can go up to 77,000. For example, you have a case in Orlando, Florida, right? You're demanding Mr. Davis to go there. He's not going to pay his flight to go there. So the retainer, if you want Davis to fly from California to go to Florida, right, and file and do the case for you and representation, all that, it's not going to be $10,000.
Oh yeah, because he's got to do what, lodging and maybe
Yep,
have somebody
it's
else
a
with
lot of
him.
work.
You
Yeah,
know,
people think, oh yeah, we could do this. We could do this. You know, Mr. Davis, I have an easy case. No, you don't. You don't have an easy case. People think you have an easy case. You don't. And people laugh at me all the time when I tell them, and they say, Miss G, you're so assertive. You just tell us how it is. And I'm like, yeah, I tell you how it is because you need to wake up.
Why waste each other's time either? You know, like
It's not even about wasting time, Michael. Honest to God, it's not. It's not even about that. It's about the fact that people don't understand that your case is not unique. Your case is the same as everyone else. You're innocent just like everyone else. So to me, stop thinking you're the only victim out there. I bring people to reality because they're not understanding the whole dynamic of CPS. The other parents are not guilty. The guilty ones don't even call us, truthfully. They just give up on their kids. But the ones that fight and the ones they know they're in the right are the ones that don't give up on their kids, and they know that they have nothing to hide. You know, I want to read something before I end the show that Helena Topa wrote on my Facebook page, which I really love. She said, "We are the storm. Authority is not the truth. Truth is the authority. It takes all the villagers of the village to save a child and discipline and train them. We no longer accept things we cannot change. We are changing the things we cannot accept." I want you guys to meditate on that because the system wants you to think you're powerless. A coward will bully you, but he or she's a coward. Get it? They would run in a sign of trouble. However, the strong, the warrior, will help those in the sign of trouble. But you guys have to understand that CPS wants you guys drugged out. They make money through the pharmaceutical companies to drug parents out, to say he's mentally unstable, he has PTSD, the child has bipolar, blah, 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 blah. The child has this, to medicate them out. And then the child grows up depending on drugs when they're dealing with trauma. And then that child has a child. Then they come back after that child and say that the parent is on drugs. It's a whole cycle that keeps going around and around and around, repeating itself. But that's what they want because the pharmaceutical companies make a lot of money. Pharmacists make a lot of money. Doctors make a lot of money. Social workers make a lot of money while they keep drugging kids and people and then say they're on drugs. Even if the prescription is the pills are prescribed by a doctor, they consider that a narcotic drug. You guys feel me, right? Oh my God. There's so much. There's so much. I think this. Sometimes if the show was 8 hours, I think I would not stop talking.
Oh yeah,
about it.
when you get going, I listen. I think it's great. It's very
Yeah.
eye opening. It is
You
very.
guys just listen to me most of the time. It's like,
I was like, all right, there she goes. All right, yeah. But no, it's true though. Actually, for me, this is actually like almost like a little bit of a therapy because it's like you guys know,
Yeah.
we've all experienced it, and there should be
yeah,
like a group for people that have been through this type of stuff, dude, because there's nothing worse. There really isn't anything worse than this that I've experienced in my life. So, I mean, this is a beautiful thing, and we get to inform people that want to open their eyes and ears and listen to
right,
this because,
right.
like you said, people need to be aware. This is
Yeah,
going on every day, and it's been going on for however long, what, 20, 30 years? I don't know, maybe even longer.
yeah.
So, it's
No longer
horrible.
than. Wait, well, I know Bill Clinton put it in place, and then when Hillary took office, then she implemented it a different way. It's just a whole.
So it's been around, but it's been changed like
Well,
what is it like little different policy changes here and there that are not to the benefit of the
I think
parent or the child.
Hillary implemented what her husband left behind.
Yeah.
Well, because he got impeached because of the Nancy, whatever, what's her name, Monica Lewinsky ordeal.
Yeah.
And honestly, Nancy Schaefer expressed more than enough how the damage was caused because of what Bill Clinton put in place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was all in like 1997, right? He started that.
1997 Act, yeah.
And then just recently, they're trying to reform it with that one act that I mentioned
right
prior
and
that
also,
Trump actually signed in.
Right, and also with this act too. I really
And
shared.
I think that coincides with the
Yeah.
Family First Act. I think
Yeah.
it's
So-
like because it was supposed to go into act like 2019, but the states delayed it. It just barely started, barely this past year.
Yeah, it actually it was
all that
passed.
stuff happened.
It was passed on October 8, 2021, and it was signed by Governor Newsom in January 1st, 2022.
The same thing with the first
Yeah.
parent or the Family First Prevention Act.
Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
out of this is. However, you're going to see social workers going around that. They're
Exactly,
going
that's
to
what
find
it's going
a
right
reason.
now.
Right, they're going to find a reason to go around it.
And they have.
Right, and that's
And
why they need to be
especially-
fired when they lie. They need to be held accountable when they lie. And they need to be held accountable when they treat parents like shit. They need to be held accountable. Period. Because they treat parents like parents are worthless. They're stupid. Everyone is different. You have the Caucasian race, you have African American race, you have the Latino race, right? When you get to, for example, if you have one friend of each like me, right? Or two friends of each, when you go to their homes, they all act different. Latinos are loud. They love to gather around with the family. They love to joke around, etc., etc. You know what I mean? They're loud. You go to the Caucasian family. They're kind of silent, a little bit, low key type of thing. Watch the game. Let's have a beer. Chips and salsa type of thing. Then you go to the African American, right, families, and they're also loud. They're with family. They love to eat mac and cheese, and they're shouting at the game, and they're watching the game, and they kid around. So everyone is different. But when a social worker goes to people's homes, they judge them. They judge them because they have a picture of Jesus. They judge them because they have a cross. They judge them because the mother takes the children to church. They judge them because they're loud when they speak. They judge them because they have food on the table. They didn't put the food away. They judge them because they put dishes in the dish rack and they did not put the dishes away in the cabinets. That's bullshit.
They do
You
it.
They judge them because there's dirty clothes in the hamper. Well, I didn't wash. How is that? How is that a bad thing?
They do it because they can, and there's no, like you said, there's no consequence, there's no accountability, therefore there's no consequence.
There's no
So
consequence.
that's the
Exactly.
problem. That's the problem. There's no consequence for lying to a judge.
Yep.
Every time they
And the
submit
judges are okay with it.
oh,
Mr.
dude, it's
Davis,
sick.
I swear, Mr. Davis said this on his show before. He said he was uh, the social worker was under oath. Davis brought to the judge's attention that the social worker lied, and he had evidence, proof of everything, right? So the judge looked at her, and he was like, interesting, blah, 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 blah. So they won the case. Mr. Davis won the case that day. However, that social worker was not fired. She actually got promoted. They get promoted.
That's the problem, and then but that's what it is. Like the supervisors, the program directors, like they encourage it. So
right?
And then there's no consequence. So it's like, what's to make them stop? The judges allow it.
Right.
Parents are crumbling, and they're doing good. They get rewarded. Yeah, it's great. It's rewarding bad behavior, basically. That's what it is.
Exactly, and that's exactly what they do. So again, I'm going to repeat: a house divided against itself is not going to stand. So it's an empire that they are protecting. Empire. Do you remember the TV series Empire? Do you guys remember?
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that thing. I loved it so much. I was so sad that they canceled it. But every time I think of CPS, it's kind of similar to that empire that Lucius was trying to protect, which is his empire. And his wife, Cookie, if you guys recall. I don't know if you ever watch it. But it's an empire. So if the family goes against itself, the empire is going to fall. Right? Same thing with the government. They go against itself, they're going to fall. So that's why it's like the people versus the government. That's the way I look at it. People versus government. That's sad. All right, everyone. If you guys need to speak with me about a hearing that's coming up and you have a question or you want Mr. Davis's book, I'll be happy to send you a link to Mr. Davis's book via text message. If you guys want to buy the hard copy of his book, it's on Amazon. I personally send everyone I know, just the text message of his link to the book, but it's not a hard copy, or it's just a link and where you just flip through your smartphone. Okay. You guys need to understand also that I get so many calls. So please, I'm begging you, if I don't return your call, try to call the office again. The number is listed on my page, and wait for me to call you. If I ask you guys to text me to let me know when you're ready to speak with me, just let me know when you're ready to speak with me. Because if you keep calling me over and over again, I'm not going to answer because I'm on another call. So please be patient. You're not the only one suffering in this chaos. There's so many people all over the states and outside of the state too. I get calls from Canada every single day, and Hawaii and the UK. So people are demanding calls back, but just know that I will get you, and I will be able to speak with you about the case. Thank you, Michael, and thank you, Miss Cassandra. I love both of you very much, and I love all of you guys as well. And God bless each and every one of you. And believe it or not, I do write your names down when I see it, and I do pray for all of you. So God bless you again, and I'll see you guys.
Thank you, Miss G. Thank you, Cassandra.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
You too.